Issue 5 of Blood Hunt doesn't waste any time getting us back into the thick of things. Clea yells at Dr. Doom about holding the children essentially hostage. But Doom remains cool. He is the one who knows the spell that'll save the world. He's the one who has the kids, which he needs to do the spell. But he'll also need the title of Sorcerer Supreme. Unfortunately, Doctor Strange says that Doom is right. Scowling, Strange admits that Doom has finally outmaneuvered him. What? Did you set this whole thing up, Victor? We cut away to Central Park. The Avengers, they have assembled, and they are charging into battle against Varnae and the Blood Coven. The first thing that the Vision does is blast Unusual with some solar energy. This frees the Scarlet Witch, and she is eager for some revenge. Black Panther and Captain America team up to fight Bloodstorm 1, and Thor approaches Varnae. It's been over 1,000 years since they last met, and he's gonna enjoy reintroducing the vampire to Mjolnir. He summons the hammer, but it's still up in orbit. Varnae plans to defeat Thor long before it gets here. Summoning the lightning that is his birthright, Thor dives at the vampire. Summoning the Dark Force, Varnae jumps at him. Iron Man tells Wanda to cast the Montesi formula, which, remember, will destroy all vampire life on Earth, even the good guys. Wanda refuses to do it. She destroyed a species once already. She will not do it again. This is, of course, a reference to her decimation of the mutant population at the end of the House of M storyline. Good use of continuity. Bloodstorm calls Wanda weak, and he tears off one of the Vision's arms. Your humanity keeps you from seizing victory, he says, and we shed ours long ago. Back in Latveria, Doom reminds Doctor Strange that time is a-wasting. The Avengers are currently fighting Varnae and his forces, and they're losing. Khonshu's undead army will not be enough to turn the tide. They need to act. Doom needs to act now. So Doctor Strange agrees, if Doom will give him an oath, a promise. Once the world is saved, you will return to me what is mine. Doom pauses for a second, and then he does give his word. Stephen isn't happy about this situation, but Doom gave his word, and he is at the very least a man of honor in his own mind. He is good for that. And besides, saving the world is what the Sorcerer Supreme is supposed to do. He pulls a small piece of his soul out of his astral form, and he hands it to Doom. It will bond with Doom like it did with Clea. Since Strange is technically dead right now, the title of Sorcerer Supreme should automatically go to him. Quietly, Doom seems to be impressed by this. He takes the soul into himself and becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown's coverage of Blood Hunt, Episode 24, The Man Who Orchestrated It All. In Manhattan, we finally see Brielle and Dracula closing in on Varnae's temple. Dracula asks if Brielle has lost her nerve, and she says no. Her purpose is written across her heart in fire, which, wow, that is poetic. This is when Spider-Man, Miles Morales, shows up. He is still a vampire, but he is down to help save the day. Is she okay? Yeah, Brielle says. I'm cool. I'm sharp. I'm a blade. My dad made me into one, and he knows that blades are made to cut. Less poetic. That one didn't work for me. At the fight, Varnae is beginning to get the upper hand on Thor. The god is swallowed up in more and more waves of darkness as the demon rants. They're both immortal. Only they know what it means to see the end of the world. Only they! Varnae's posturing has allowed Mjolnir time to return, and in a blast of thunder and lightning, Thor is free. Iron Man asks if Captain Marvel can blast the sun free again like she did back in issue 3, but she can't. The Dark Force here is too thick. Even the Vision's stores of solar energy are getting low, as he blasts Damascene in the head. Good thing backup is here. Moon Knight, backed up by an army of his undead predecessors, stalks into the fight. In Latveria, we see the adults go into a chamber which houses the strange academy kids. Doom has been preparing for this eventuality. The magic that has forced open the Dark Force dimension is old, pre-Atlantean. Thankfully, Doom has studied texts and artifacts from all over the world. You might say he plundered them, strange comments, but it's taught Doom what he needs to know. He can unravel this old spell. He summons the power of those present, the Faltine, the human, the fairy, the weird worlder, and weaves their magic together. All that he requests of them is everything. Before we see what happens with this, we are bounced back to the fight. Moon Knight does his best to help, freeing the Vision from Bloodstorm 1's grasp, but the Vision is too drained. There will be no more solar blasts for him. Cruel's barbed-wired tendrils snake out and grab both of the heroes. Bloodstorm offers them one last mercy. He'll let them watch his master's triumph. And it does look like Varnae is going to win this fight. All of the Avengers are caught up in Dark Force tendrils or Cruel's barbed wire. The darkness swallows their energy blasts, their punches, anything that's thrown at it. I only had one weakness, Varnae tells them. The girl, the bloodline, and she's not even here. So of course that's when Brielle shows up. Dracula drops Brielle out of the flooping sky, and she sinks her sword right into Varnae's borrowed chest, and he falls to the ground. It's too late, he says, smiling. My possession has gone on long enough that your father's too far gone. This body is mine now, and you are of his bloodline, not mine. Which is when Miles jumps in and shoves Brielle's sword even deeper. Varnae was the one who turned him into a vampire, making Miles part of Varnae's bloodline. This bit of supernatural legality apparently works because Varnae screams as black dark force erupts from his body, and Doom can feel the demon's concentration has finally broken. He strikes. His spell reverses the flow of the dark force dimension, and sunlight begins to break through the cover. Screaming in pain, in rage, Varnae can't stop the Scarlet Witch from casting him out. We see his spiritual form leave Blade's body, and Brielle drops to her father's side. She apologizes immediately. But no, she did good. She did what he taught her to do. Wanda then catches Varnae in a burst of red or pink crystal, and good, I thought that he was going to escape. Thor and Captain America are sent to help free Vision and Moon Knight. Iron Man and the Black Panther are tasked with keeping Blade alive, and they do. Captain America, Sam, reports that the other heroes are okay. The Blood Coven ran as soon as Varnae went down. The Witch reports that their end is locked down too. Varnae is caught, and Blade is stable. Whoever did whatever, the Dark Force is receding. They seem to have won. In Latveria, Steven compliments Doom on his spellcraft. But the fun cosplay part of the day is over. My title, if you please. Remember, you gave your word. He sure did. Doom said that he would return the mantle after he saved the world, and he hasn't finished saving it yet. With the flick of a wrist, Doom appears to dismiss the astral form of Stephen Strange. Doom does nothing halfway. Let me show you what it means to save the world. In New York, Miles rejoices at seeing the sun again, but then he recoils. He's a vampire! This should hurt him if it not kill him outright. But it doesn't. It doesn't do anything. Dracula smiles. It looks like the sun has lost its sting. Their people have a new dawn ahead of them. Miles doesn't understand how that's possible, and Dracula plays this pretty coy. Sometimes when you save the world... Sometimes when you save the world owes you a favor. I don't know if that was Dracula enough, but there you have it. The Avengers prepare to move. It is still night on the other side of the planet, which may mean more or continued vampire attacks, even without Varnae. They need to move. But Iron Man reports that there is a broadcast being done. It is overriding every signal. It is broadcasting to every screen, even the ones that are off right now. He projects it from his armor. And come on, we all know what this is. There is only one man to thank for saving the world. The world's new, superior Sorcerer Supreme. Victor Von Doom. From bad to worse, am I right? From my perspective, breaking down the pacing of this comic and its individual beats, Jed MacKay does a great job. He moves from story point to story point excellently, timing out the story into such great individual moments. Right, we open with our two most pressing story beats, Doctor Strange and Clea searching for a solution with Doctor Doom, and then the Avengers battling Varnae and his forces. These are the most exciting things that are going on, but Strange is half as slower. There's less action going on. His scene is all personal drama and tension as Doom essentially holds the world hostage. The Avengers scene is all combat. It's the heroes doing what we like to see them do best, and that's hitting things until they stop being a threat. When those plot lines finally move forward, when Doom is given the title of Sorcerer Supreme, a step forward towards the resolution of the story, we then get Varnae overwhelming the Avengers, a step backwards towards defeat. But then we get a new story beat introduced. Brielle, Dracula, Spider-Man show up. Boom! And just enough to get them back in the show and then show us what their plot is. Their plots have all wrapped up over in their own individual miniseries or tie-ins, so the only thing that they have to do here is what they came to do here, right? End it. Notice that after Brielle's first scene, the Avengers managed to swing back towards victory. That's the turning point, Brielle getting involved. That's a really nice touch. Combine that masterful storytelling with Pepe Larraz's incredible artwork. And this was just a solid read. And Marte Gracia's coloring, especially when Doom is casting that spell, so pretty. It has these great moments of continuity, like I love Wanda's reluctance to just wipe out the vampire race, knowing what she did to the vampire community. I like Brielle coming into this fight ready, having finally found her nerve over in the Dracula miniseries. I like that the ending scene of Strange Academy is directly tied into this issue, as much as the rest of it frustrated me. Even the individual character beats, like Captain Marvel ordering the Avengers around, is right, as she is the current head of the team. Black Panther even talks about Captain America's speech back in issue 3, issue 4, when he's like, hey, we're going to avenge the world, you guys. That's something that helped T'Challa come back to himself. I don't honestly see how that affected T'Challa's narrative, but it's referenced and it's nice to see it. All of this stuff works super well. But for me, the real treat with this issue is just the stuff with Doctor Doom. First off, because it's just Doom to hold the entire world hostage just to get the title and position of Sorcerer Supreme. What an absolute piece of crap. It is perfect for the kind of villain that Doctor Doom is. When MacKay wrote the Strange ongoing series starring Clea as the Sorcerer Supreme when Stephen was dead, there was a scene right in the beginning of the series that featured Doctor Doom. He basically showed up to claim the title. He's like, hey, Stephen's dead. I'm clearly the Sorcerer Supreme. Let me have it. And Clea just brushes him off. She goes, no, Stephen gave this to me. I will defend it with my very last breath. Get the fuck out of my house. Doom swore that he would get even with her. And here he is, making good on that threat. That's one of the things you gotta like about him. When Stephen asked for Doom's word, I knew immediately where that aspect of this story was going. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Stephen knows that Doctor Doom is a man of his word. He is a man of honor, as twisted as his own sense of honor may be. Stephen's problem was not having a lawyer double-check the wording of this agreement. Elon, over in CrossGen's Meridian comic that I've been covering in the main show's feed, would absolutely school Stephen Strange on the fact that the exact wording of the contract is what is important, not the implied agreement, you fool. I love that. But more, I love that there's an accusation by Stephen here that Doctor Doom set this whole thing up. And the first time that I read this issue, I just brushed this idea off. This is too big, there are too many moving parts. I believe that Doctor Doom would absolutely take advantage of this attack, but I didn't think that he would set it up. But there are a couple things to keep in mind that do make it a little bit more probable. We've got a couple of breadcrumbs here that might lead us back around to that idea. First off, Varnae's possession of Blade seems to have come from out of nowhere. We haven't seen that story element explored anywhere in Bloodhunt. I've read as many of the tie-ins as I could, and so maybe instead of Jed MacKay just not wanting to do that, maybe him ignoring it is an intentional story point. Maybe Doom helped Varnae take possession of Blade to set him up as the main bad guy for this threat. Secondly, this story ends with the vampire race's weakness to sunlight abolished. Both Dracula and Miles confirm this. So when Miles asks Dracula how this happened, Dracula smugly replies that sometimes when you save the world owes you a favor. And that is an insipid statement if it's true. But what if Dracula teamed up with Dr. Doom? What if he was tasked by Doom with gathering the one thing that could stop Varnae, Brielle, and keeping her safe, or even delaying her entry into the fight so that it could get really, really bad to where Doctor Doom would need to save the world? It would explain why Dracula was so protective of her this entire time, and his payment for services rendered was a vampire-wide immunity to sunlight. Dracula might have even been the one to tell Doom about Varnae, or at least Varnae's weaknesses. Perhaps Doom is the one who provided Varnae with the spells to activate the Dark Force users, and that's part of why he was able to shut that effect off. When Doom goes to cast the spell, he specifically says that the magic they're seeking to undo is powerful. It's old, pre-Fall Atlantean. It was written by the same hand that wrote the Darkhold. We know that Varnae wrote the Darkhold. We know that he wrote it before Atlantis fell. And we know that he also created the spell that created vampires. I think that the spell that Doom is undoing here isn't the Dark Force one. It's how vampirism works. And if that's the case, if Dr. Doom really did orchestrate this whole attack just to claim the title of Sorcerer Supreme, that's a really impressive chess game. That makes Doom feel incredibly intelligent and cunning, and it would kind of paste over some of my biggest complaints about Bloodhunt. If I am right with this idea, perhaps we'll get like a one-shot in the future that has kind of like Doom's side of the story all laid out, and we can kind of see all those dots get connected. Maybe MacKay is saving that reveal for the next stage of this Doctor Doom story. And if that is the case, then I am cool with this long, currently frustrating way of telling the story. I don't mind if the reason we haven't gotten Blade's story is because it's being saved for a later date. And even if it's just a real quick flashback, like, just, again, give me the dots so that I can connect them, that's fine. I don't need a Blade ongoing series to explore every one of these ideas. I just want to know that there was a plan here and it makes sense. And it didn't just come from out of nowhere. And if I can get a story later on where it's Doom, like, walking around his castle being like, I'm so glad that my plan worked. And then he starts to ruminate on it, and then we get to see all the pieces happen, and then we go, what an absolute jerk. That's a thumbs up. You can't, I was doing it off camera. Oh, that would be cool. I am still perplexed by the idea that Varnae or Blade can't be killed except by members of their own bloodline. But this final strike, when Varnae is like, I've possessed Blade for so long that his body is as much mine as his, you can't kill me, Brielle! Maybe that is why Miles Morales got turned into a vampire. Maybe Blade was the one who wanted Miles turned because A, he trusts him to do the right thing, and B, because Blade would know that they might need a bloodline connection to Varnae in order to stop his threat. Maybe Blade's own cunning helped bring about Varnae's defeat. Maybe just enough of Blade was active there to be like, hey, you should go bite Miles Morales. And Varnae was just like, this is a great idea, I'll go do that, not realizing that it would backfire on him. Given how little role Blade played in what I would argue is his story, God, I really hope that's the case. I do appreciate Blade complimenting Brielle after Varnae got purged, though. It is a small moment, but it fits Blade perfectly. There are then a number of places that are going to explore the fallout of this particular story. Miles Morales is staying a vampire, at least for now, and he's going to feature, at least for a little bit, in a new comic called Blood Hunters. This was actually originally an anthology comic telling these small stories that happened during Blood Hunt, but which were even farther removed from the narrative. The main story for that comic was Dagger, Elsa Bloodstone, the White Widow, and Hallows Eve joining up to fight vampires, and apparently they're going to keep doing so. When they're trying to hunt down the Blood Coven, they're going to cross paths with Miles, and probably someone's going to try to kill him, and then it'll be a huge misunderstanding, and they'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Blade, of course, as spoken about over in the Midnight Suns episode, will be getting a new series this October. The tease that we saw back in Midnight Suns issue 3 calls it a series, but solicitations for the comic have already dropped, and they indicate that it is a 5-issue miniseries, and assuming I can afford it, I'll definitely be there. I do like Brian Hill's handling of Blade, and I'm interested to see what status quo the character has now that Blood Hunt has ended, especially if this is just a kind of like wrap things up story and Blade is not going to have an ongoing series anymore. I would really like to have this bit of mystery dealt with. And then, teased in November, is One World Under Doom. We don't know anything about what this is yet, but my feeling is that it's going to be a like Dark Reign or Heroic Age or Krakoan era X-Men style theme. Like, it's not going to be a single comic or a single storyline, but rather it'll be this broad, sweeping influence on a number of books as Doom comes into his own as the Sorcerer Supreme. After all, this is one of Doom's biggest pushes for power in recent memory, at least since the world-ending Secret Wars, Jonathan Hickman's version, and there's no way that he isn't going to be sticking his fingers into everybody else's food. I am quite excited for this. Doom's influence will be felt in perhaps the strangest of places, The Amazing Spider-Man. Marvel's already started teasing a storyline called The 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, in which Spider-Man is charged by Doom with battling Cyttorak, the demonic force behind the Juggernaut's unstoppable strength. We don't know much about this storyline yet, but I love the idea. Clearly the idea is that Doom's going to give Spider-Man like 8 chances at life, and he's going to probably die a couple of times, and Doom manipulating the heroes of the world in order to save the world is something that I think is right up his alley. I think that's really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't bought Amazing Spider-Man in quite some time, so I think this is going to be a weird one, and that's exactly why I'm here for it. Despite this being the end of the Blood Hunt event, I'm going to be doing one more episode on it. Rather than covering a specific comic, though, I'm just kind of going to be reviewing the entire event from a macro perspective. How satisfying, now that we have finished it, was Blood Hunt? How were all the tie-ins? How many of them would I say are necessary reading? Did I miss something important? And which of my collections do I put this in? Because holy crap. Join me for just one more episode of Blood Hunt. Episode 25. Put a stake in it. It's done. If you enjoyed this episode of Breakdown, please make sure to hit that like button, and if you are not subscribed to the show, then click on that as well. I love getting feedback, and I would really appreciate it if you did so. If you have any questions, concerns, or would like to suggest a comic or a series to me, Breakdown can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and on a variety of podcast platforms, with links in the description for this episode below, as well as the email cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Thank you for your time and attention.